Philosophy. What is it? A lot of the time, people think philosophy is some sort of abstract, highbrow concept that the normal person can't get their heads around. And you have to understand the ancient works of Socrates or Aristotle to be able to understand it. But in reality, it's just basically thinking about things and reassessing your perception of the world and asking yourself, are you heading in the right direction? You might think you might need to read some sort of really dull university level text that's not seen the light of day since the mid 1950s. But you don't really. Everything's online now, and you can do a little bit of digging and understand things a little bit better. But if you apply five fairly simple principles, you can apply a little bit of philosophical thinking to your everyday life. The first point is to think before reacting. How many times do you fly off the handle or get a little bit upset about something that isn't really worth thinking about? You've got to ask yourself, why do you feel that way? Why am I hurting? Why am I reacting like some sort of absolute knob? If you question these things, you're automatically applying a little bit of philosophy. The next point is to question your assumptions. Why do you think the world exists in a certain way, or you think the world exists in a certain way? You've got to question these things. And if you take a little bit of time to think about it, you're probably going to come up with some answers to realize that 90% of the things that go on around you are absolute nonsense. The third point is to seek some sort of meaning and not just comfort. Sometimes we always think that we need to have convenience and things need to just work absolutely perfectly. But sometimes things happen not by some sort of mythical, massive plan in the universe. It's just a bit of a bump in the road that actually helps you along the way and makes you a little bit tougher. But if you just take on board some of these things and don't constantly seek comfort, you'll realize that things probably are a bit better when you have a little bit of challenge in your life. The fourth point is to think about ethical thinking and think a little bit about your everyday decisions. Think about the environment, not just like whether you're pumping thousands of tons of CO2 into the atmosphere, but think about whether you've got nice places to walk or play with your kids, if you've got a playground or a football field. These sort of environmental things help us think a little bit more clearly and we're at one with nature a little bit more. But if everyone has these things to hand, people tend to be a little bit happier and they're not constantly battling with each other on Instagram or Facebook. The fifth point is to embrace uncertainty. A lot of the time, people want to have a nice, easy path of least resistance, and they want to know where they're heading tomorrow or next year, or whether they've got a birthday party planned in 2 weeks' time. But sometimes you've just got to take on board that you don't know everything and you have to deal with things as they happen, and you've got to make decisions. And if you can embrace this uncertainty, you can take a philosophical approach and things are probably going to work out ultimately okay. But if you can think about these five aspects, you're probably going to look at life through the eyes of a classic philosopher, but through the eyes of the everyday person. So think about that. Think about your reactions. Think about questioning assumptions. Think about the meaning and not just comfort. Practice some sort of ethical thinking and you think about your environment and embrace uncertainty and know that you don't know everything and just move on. And with that, you'll probably be a pretty good amateur philosopher.